There's something deeply f***ed up with you.
Videos of girls dancing in a Manhattan townhouse, model castings, pornography of all kinds. These are just a few of the more than 2,000 videos released under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Plus, there are interviews where Epstein calls himself a Tier 1 sexual predator.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
We dug through hours of footage to find some of the creepiest but most telling clips. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, quick 180 before we jump into this. I know I talk about sponsors, but when I'm passionate about one, how can I not talk about it? Proof wallets, okay? I started hearing people saying, oh, this is the best wallet I've ever had, all that. Hype is real. First of all, you know what I love? Proof wallets, it is a veteran-owned company, and it's built by craftsmen who take pride in what they make. Look at the design. Look at that craftsmanship, but also super secure. Not only are they RFID blocking, they also hold up to 25 cards without feeling bulky or like anything is really gonna slip out. Here's the best part, it's how they treat their customers. Did your wallet get damaged? Did it get stolen? If so, they will replace it for free. And you can even customize it with images and text and logos, anything you want. So go to go.carryproof.com/sidebar. Order yours today. Use code SIDEBAR for 20% off your entire order today. That is code SIDEBAR for 20% off. We talk so much about the Epstein files these past few weeks. The emails, the case summaries, the reports, the photos, unfortunately. What about the videos? What about the tapes? What about the Epstein tapes? From a legal point of view, I will tell you sometimes I can't think of a more compelling piece of evidence to show a jury than videos, because videos, they capture something that no other piece of evidence can. Movements, actions, time, behavior. And here, again, I'll throw in the unfortunately, there are tapes in the Epstein files release that we got to talk about. We are referring to more than 2,000 videos with hours of footage, all a part of the Department of Justice's release of materials through the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And this includes the tapes of Jeffrey Epstein himself, which are particularly strange because we never really hear this guy speak before, let alone in this way. And remember, he's the man at the center of all this, and we'll get to that. But I do want to preface this by saying that much of the footage is redacted, and we don't know the ages or the identities of the women and the girls that have been covered by black boxes, so I'll be just calling them females since, again, we don't know how old they are. Now, I do want to talk about arguably some of the most uncomfortable clips first, okay? Some of the footage included in the release is pretty innocuous. Someone playing with a small dog, what looks like a promotional piece for Little St. James Island, often called Epstein's Island, which he owned. Now, I say innocuous, we know what was happening on that island was allegedly not innocent. Multiple victims have come forward to say that they were assaulted and abused on that island. That island is also the centerpiece for many potential scandals, with people questioning whether some of the world's wealthiest and most powerful people visited it. If there's a claim that you visited that island, it's as toxic as it gets. Now, some of the clips, although they're redacted, obviously pornography sites. It's unclear how many of the clips were from legitimate online porn sites and how many were created by Epstein's victims at his behest, but several of the porn videos have website watermarks at the bottom referencing teens, unfortunately. But other videos are just strange. For example, you got this selfie video of Epstein making weird and unsettling faces into the camera. There's another that shows him standing up on a countertop in a large kitchen and then getting down and literally chasing a female around the room. Again, I don't know how old this person is. There's also footage of him dancing with someone in what appears to be a hallway. You know what? Actually, there are lots of dancing videos, with several apparently filmed in Epstein's office at his home in New York City. And I just gotta say this, how creepy is this one? In one of the videos, you can clearly see a paternity test, this kit sitting on Epstein's desk. Some of the footage is especially unsettling because while we don't know the age of the females in the video, there are also stuffed animals visible in the frame. For example, this selfie video of someone holding a Cookie Monster doll, and another, which we can assume based on the context contains pornographic material, shows a teddy bear in the background. And there's even a video of someone playing with a young child, handing them various toys and stuffed animals. We don't know who this child is, where this video was taken, the connection to Epstein, but obviously really concerning. And remember, before he died, he was facing federal sex trafficking of minors charges. There's also around 14 hours of footage in all, and much of it is made up of short snippets of video. There's almost zero context provided for where the videos came from, who they show, why Epstein might have kept them, whether or not they were going to be pivotal in his criminal trial. I'll tell you this, there's a clip of someone filming a woman receiving a massage, and pretty disturbing when you consider that Epstein and his partner Ghislaine Maxwell, they were accused of luring teen girls to his home with the promise of money in exchange for a massage. That was the grooming tactic, right? That's what led to the abuse. That's what led to the escalation. There's footage of someone taking a bubble bath. There's dozens of videos apparently sent from women and girls to Epstein showing them in various states of undress. And there are videos that are apparently sent to Epstein or his staff.
Getting all the flavors of all the jellies. We already got 4 bags, but she thought it wouldn't be enough, so she's getting some more. She's very serious about it. How many jelly beans did we get? And then it's just a little part of what we've got.
And it seems glaringly obvious in some of the files that these females are pretty young. In another creepy section of the files, we can see a kind of grainy black and white image of an office, which appears to have been taken from a security camera of some kind. And you know, there have been a lot of differing information about surveillance in Epstein's homes. You have photos that were taken inside his Manhattan townhouse by law enforcement after his 2019 arrest that show at least 2 cameras near the ceiling. So one in a bedroom and one in a hallway, as well as some sort of base of operations. And there's a sign on the door that says 24-hour video surveillance. Now, the thing about that is, in these files, in this Epstein release, there was a 2014 email sent by Epstein that says, "Let's get 3 motion-detected hidden cameras that record. Thanks." And there's long been speculation that Epstein was filming basically everything all the time in order to use the videos to blackmail the world's elite. That was a common allegation, a common theory, but in an email included in the files, there was an agent who sent the following to then FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino, and it says, quote, "During the searches of Epstein's New York residence and USVI residence in 2019, the FBI searched for videos and surveillance cameras. My understanding from the case agent is that there were no cameras found inside any bedrooms or living areas of either residence. I understand that surveillance cameras were located near the entrances of the residences." So if that's true, okay, that's strange, but also, did something change? I don't know. You know, is it always the case that there wasn't something there, or why they couldn't find it? I don't know. It's just interesting to say the least. But next, I mentioned hearing from Epstein himself, right? So a big part of this is a long interview that was conducted by Steve Bannon, former White House chief strategist. And according to the files, there was this idea, seemingly, to try to rehabilitate Epstein's image by producing a documentary about him. It's unclear why Bannon would have wanted to do this, but remember, this is after Epstein pleaded guilty to Florida state charges of solicitation of prostitution of a minor. And I mean, the files, they show a lot of communication between the two, texts, emails, several photos of the two of them together, really looking at that 2018-2019 timeframe. I mean, I'll give you an idea. Epstein said in one message to Bannon, "I don't like texting," to which Bannon replied, "Got it." February 2019, before Epstein was federally indicted, Epstein wrote to Bannon, "Do you think I can do my own video interview and upload it on YouTube?" Woody said he would help edit, not sure how to stage, what points to make, but better than trying to do an interview that I have no experience doing. Goal to humanize the monster. I will note here, it's believed he's talking about Woody Allen, and the text that Epstein sent to Bannon just before this exchange reads, "Dinner with Woody or too many pedos in one place?" Yikes, to say the least. And Bannon, by the way, also laid out this plan. Quote, "First, we need to push back on the lies, then crush the pedo trafficking narrative, then rebuild your image as philanthropist." To be clear, Bannon hasn't been accused of a crime. He's been very vocal about wanting the files to be made public. And even though the documentary was never produced, we have this footage, okay? You get this footage where Bannon is interviewing Epstein. It kind of gives you a window into this guy that you never saw before because, again, we don't really have that much of him even speaking. But take a look.
How did a schmuck like you get on the board of Rockefeller? What year was that?
I don't remember. Late, I think 89 and 91.
So that's one of the most prestigious research places in the world, correct?
Yes.
Okay, how did a guy like you get on the board of a blue blood, internationally known, hard research, Nobel Prize winners all over the place. How do they pick a guy like you, a trader from, or basically some guy from Bear Stearns?
Good question. So I was asked to be on the board of Rockefeller.
Yeah, the interview primarily focuses on Epstein's reputation as this apparent financial genius, someone who was practically clairvoyant when it came to markets around the world. And to give you kind of context here, when Epstein was arrested for soliciting a minor for prostitution out in Palm Beach in Florida, this is again, he made that deal in 2008. The United States was dealing with a huge financial crisis at the time, remember? And so when Bannon asked Epstein about his knowledge of what was happening behind the scenes at some of the country's largest investment firms, Epstein also talked about his time behind bars.
How did you hear about what was going to happen to Lehman Brothers, and what did you immediately think when you heard they was going to be put into bankruptcy?
I'm glad you asked that question. I was in solitary confinement September 14th. And again, some of the public stories about the wonderful time I had in jail and my work release, which didn't come till months after. I'd been there since June in an 8x10 cell with a bed in the back, a 6-foot bed in the back, a chrome sink with a toilet attached to it, and a little piece of metal sticking out that was supposed to act as a table. Now, since I was in jail, there were no books. Why? There's no library. No library, but you're in jail. No, I was in jail, not prison. So in jail, I was in a place what's called the Special Housing Unit, which is for the roughest, toughest, meanest people. They had put me there, they said, for my own protection. So I was in an 8x10 cell with a little slit in the door where they would serve my food on a tray about 9 inches by 4 inches. And then as soon as I finished eating, they would take the tray and close it down. And one of the guards said, do you understand there's Wall Street's crashing. I'm worried about my pension fund. What should I do? And I said, sorry, Wall Street's crashing? What's happened? And he said, there's some crisis and some companies are going bankrupt. I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah, it's all over the papers. We're all terrified we're going to lose our life savings because we have either a 401k or our pension funds. We don't know anything about money. Mr. Epstein, can you tell us, like, what's going on? Am I going to be able to afford my children's education? Am I going to be bankrupt like this company called Lehman Brothers? And there's another company in the front page today called Bear Stearns. Oh no, I said. Why? Because that's the company I was a partner in. And in fact, that was the company I had a very large investment in. So, as a great story, I didn't have my Wall Street Journal, but in the early mornings, you're allowed to make 2 phone calls, collect. And when you pick up the phone, you can dial a number, and when the person picks up, they say, you're getting a call from the Palm Beach County Jail. Will you accept reverse charges? And the person either says yes, and the call goes through, or the person says no. The person I had called was Jimmy Kane, the president of Bear Stearns. And I said, tell me what's going on. And so that my knowledge of the financial crisis happened with Jimmy, who was at the center of the storm, telling me about what Lehman had gone under, and they were trying to figure out a way, should they bail out Bear Stearns? The question you want to ask is, who was the other call to?
Okay. Who was the other call to?
The other call was to my friend at J.P. Morgan, who was then, I didn't know it at the time, trying to buy Bear Stearns. So at one point, I had 2 phones. It was difficult because they're afraid people are going to hang themselves with the phone cord. So they don't actually come together and they're pretty short. So I was actually going between 2 phones talking to Bear Stearns and J.P. Morgan at the same time. So I found it amusing.
And it never struck you about how to end up in a situation like this?
No, that would be probably means I would be too self-aware.
You can't possibly expect me to believe this.
I know. I don't believe it.
You're telling me that during that day, you never had a moment. You sat there and go, what the have I done with my life that I'm in a 6x9 jail cell when I should be on a trading desk or I should be in my $250 million, greatest townhouse in New York City, taking calls from the King of Saudi Arabia, the President of China, the head of Russia, the President of the United States, to save the world's population from a financial debacle. You honestly expect me to believe that that never happened?
You're suggesting I was somewhat depressed, and how could this happen to me?
I'm not saying depressed. I'm saying a moment of awareness of how could I get myself into this situation.
No, I would just say how strange that this happens. It's strange. I'm wearing a jumpsuit and flip-flops.
What color was the jumpsuit?
Brown.
Brown jumpsuit.
Yes.
I notice I don't see you in a lot of brown.
No.
Brown jumpsuit and flip-flops.
Flip-flops, yes.
With no access to books, no access to newspapers,
no access to anything.
You had lived on information.
Except my Almond Joy bars. I had extra Almond Joy bars.
Did you eat Almond Joy bars and things like that because you're afraid of what the cooks did to your food?
Yes.
Is that because of that you were in for the crimes that you were in for?
No, it was just in fact, I was.
Is it because you're wealthy?
Yes.
How did you know that?
Well, people would constantly come if I was passing by or have to go for my medical. People would either ask to borrow money or make some other types of comments about.
In
the beginning,
what were the comments? At the beginning, what were the comments?
It serves you rich guys right that you're here next to me.
There was nothing about your crimes.
No.
So all this rumor you hear all the time about people in prison that commit the type of crimes you commit, you're saying in your personal thing is not true.
No.
It was all because you were rich.
Yes.
And it was all because they wanted to borrow money.
Or get advice. Yes.
Where they get advice to go long.
Yes, sure.
You're telling me
is this time to buy?
You're telling me in solitary confinement they're interested in going long.
Yeah. They want to know what
does that say
stocks.
about human nature?
Well, what I think the people find, one of the reasons they wanted to keep me in solitary confinement was they're afraid that everybody would want to know which stocks to buy.
Yeah, that's right. Epstein claims that those guards were asking him for financial advice. Now, at one point during the interview, Epstein apparently took a break to freshen up his wardrobe.
When did you first start to get nervous, understanding Bill Clinton and all this? Did you change glasses?
Yes.
Okay.
I changed shirt.
I saw that black.
Are you okay with the?
Yeah, great. I think we're gonna have all kinds of changes.
I'm experimenting.
Yeah.
Okay.
When did you get a feeling? Did you ever anticipate before it happened something like 2008 could happen?
No.
But Bannon keeps coming back to the fact that Epstein, for all of his apparent knowledge of how the world works, he ended up in prison. Although I will say that his attorneys worked out what's been called that sweetheart deal with the then U.S. Attorney in Miami, Alexander Acosta, which ended with Epstein avoiding serious federal charges, getting kind of a light sentence for the state charges. And throughout the interview, Bannon seems to kind of needle Epstein, referring to things like the Me Too movement and asking at one point, this was big, whether Epstein is the devil himself.
When you say ownership in the system, it doesn't mean.
Let's start over.
Okay.
Yeah. So flip
Sorry.
over your phone too, because
Yes.
I don't want anyone to see
Yeah.
on your phone. So maybe flip it down or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows what the comes up with that phone?
That's correct.
Which one has sent you?
KSA.
I can't not believe I've got the magic moment when you're in prison or jail, wherever the is
It's
in
crazy.
solitary.
Now, there's a funny part to that we missed, which is said.
Go ahead, tell it.
The funny part is just what you asked me.
Is there anything funnier than that?
No, no.
For black humor,
I don't make any black comments. Sorry. You asked me what I was wearing.
That's right. You're too wrapped up in the Me Too movement.
Yes.
I just asked a question. Is your money dirty money?
No, it's not. So, in fact.
Why is it not dirty money?
Because I earned it. A heart.
But you earned it.
I earned it legally.
We went back to this before. You earned
Yes.
it. You earned it advising the worst people in the world, right? That do enormous bad things, and just to make more money.
So, instead of asking me the question, should you take the money? Because I think it's a legitimate question.
You think it's a legitimate question?
Yes, no
Why?
question. Because I think about it, I think ethics is always a complicated subject, but I can tell you that with the money I gave to help try to eradicate polio, in Pakistan and India. Instead of asking me whether that money should be given to these children for vaccines, I think you might want to ask their mothers who received the vaccine, who know their child now won't get polio, and ask them if Epstein should have helped these people. You're a
mathematician. If we walked into that clinic where they're giving that money out to these people that are in the most dire straits of poverty and sickness, and told them that the money was coming from class 3 sexual predator?
Tier 1.
Was tier 1's the highest and worst?
No, I'm the lowest. I'm the lowest.
You're the lowest. Okay, tier 1, you're the lowest. But a criminal.
Yes.
That the money came from them. What percentage of people do you estimate? I understand you don't like probabilities. Do you estimate would say, I don't care, I want the money for my children?
I would say everyone said, I want the money for my children.
Did they know where the money came from?
I think if you told them, if I told them the devil
100%. Himself.
The devil himself said, I'm going to exchange some dollars for your child's life.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
It's a serious question. Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Because you have all the attributes. You're incredibly smart. You remember the devil is somebody who knows.
Smart?
The devil's brilliant. You read Milton's Paradise Lost.
No, the devil scares me.
Satan is at the number 1 or 2 archangel, and the reason he goes to hell and leads the rebellion is because he can't be the top guy. And his thing is, I'd rather reign in hell than serve in heaven.
I saw that in a movie once called American Dharma. I don't remember who said it. Okay, we have to go.
Okay, good. Okay. That was good.
Now, there's one more thing that I want to talk about before we wrap things up here. And included in the release were portions of a Ghislaine Maxwell deposition, as well as footage of apparent victims being interviewed by Palm Beach police detectives back in the early 2000s. Now, it's unclear if these clips were in Epstein's possession for some reason or if they were just connected to the investigation. Were they investigatory materials that the DOJ had? So, it's unclear. And by the way, it's also unclear why only parts of Maxwell's deposition were released. And by that way, that was a deposition that she did with regards to a lawsuit that renowned Epstein accuser, Maxwell accuser, Virginia Giuffre had filed. So that's why you see this deposition in 2016. Now, back to those police interviews. We actually talked about these interviews here on Sidebar before. We did an episode on it. This is when multiple alleged victims told investigators about the promise of money if they came to Epstein's sprawling home, gave him a massage. Take a listen.
She told me about this guy I was short on rent 1 month, and she told me that all I had to do was give him a massage and he would give me $200. And that's pretty much it. And I thought about it. I was like, I really need the money. I've asked my parents, they can't give me the money. I asked everyone I knew. And I went there with her, I gave him a massage, and it was a weird situation.
Have you had any formal massage training?
No.
Did you provide the massage with clothing on?
All I had was underwear on.
Okay. Did she tell you that you would have to provide the massage with just underwear?
No.
Did anything else happen?
I'm sorry, I don't like thinking back on Zeus, so...
Okay, first of all, I know this is hard on you,
Mm-hmm.
okay? I know that you put this behind you.
Yeah.
A lot of people that I've talked to have,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
You're not the only person that he's done this to.
Okay. And he just got up and walked out. He's like, okay, you can put your clothes on, and he closed the door.
And you were paid how much?
$200. He asked me for my phone number just in case he wanted to call me and come back, and they called me, and I never called them back.
But in stark contrast, when Ghislaine Maxwell was deposed in April of 2016 pursuant to this lawsuit, she kind of feigned surprise that any such accusations were being made.
Can you list for me all the girls that you have met and brought to Jeffrey Epstein's house that were under the age of 18?
Check the Foreman Foundation.
I could only recall my family members that were there, and I could not make a list of anyone else because that never happened. But I can think of.
I'm talking about during the time that you were working for Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
Can you list all the girls that you found for Jeffrey Epstein that were under the age of 18 to come work for him in any capacity?
Check the Foreman Foundation.
So I didn't find the girls. I didn't look for them.
You choose the word.
Well, no, you don't choose the word. If you have a question, ask it.
List all of the girls that you met and brought to Jeffrey Epstein's home for the purposes of employment that were under the age of 18.
Objective Foreman Foundation.
I've already characterized what my job was, which was to find people, adults, professional people, to do the types of jobs that I listed before. Pool person, secretary, house person, chef, pilot,
But I'm asking
architect.
about individuals under the age of 18, not adult persons, individuals under the age of 18.
I only hired, looked for people, tried to find people to fill professional jobs in professional situations.
Under the age of 18, correct?
I think we've established was 17 and
Is she
a
the
masseuse.
only, I'm sorry, go ahead. Is she the only individual that you met for purposes of hiring someone for Jeffrey that was under the age of 18?
Objective Foreman Foundation mischaracterizes her testimony.
So I didn't hire people. I met
I didn't use
people.
the word hire. I said
Yes, you did.
I said met.
Yes. So I interviewed people for jobs that were professional people for professional things, and I'm not aware of anyone aside from who clearly was a masseuse aged 17, but that's, at least that's how far we know that I can think of that fulfilled any professional capacity for Jeffrey.
List all the people under the age of 18 that you interacted with at any of Jeffrey's properties.
I'm not aware of anybody that I interacted with. Other than I was 17 at this point. I had not any idea exactly of the youngest adult employee that I hired for Jeffrey.
When you say adult employee, did you ever hire someone that was under the age of 18?
Never.
Did you ever bring someone who was under, or invite someone who was under the age of 18 to his home, any of his homes?
Objective Foreman Foundation.
You can answer.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Did you ever invite anybody under the age of 18 to Jeffrey's homes?
Same objection.
I have a number of friends that have children, and friends of mine who have kids, and in the invitation of my friends and their kids, I'm sure that I will have invited some of my friends' kids to come, if that's what you're referring to.
No, anybody that is not a friend of yours, any female under the age of 18, did you invite them to come to Jeffrey's home?
Objective Foreman Foundation.
Again, as I said, I'm not aware of having invited anybody other than friends of mine who have children to the house.
Did you invite to come to Jeffrey Epstein's home when she was under the age of 18?
Ms. Maxwell, when did you...
Objective Foreman Foundation.
You can answer.
I have no idea when I met her.
Do you know how old she was when you met her?
I have no idea how old she was when I met her.
Is it possible that she was 13 years old when you first met her?
Objective Foreman Foundation.
First of all, the mother is Jeffrey's friend, and his mother was Jeffrey's friend, so may have been in the house. When she was in the house, I had no idea how old she was. She was with her mother.
I understand that she was with her mother. I'm asking you, if she was 13 years old when you first met her.
I have no idea how old she was when...
Was she under 18 when you first met her?
I have no idea how old she was when she was in the house.
Did she...
Who were the other 17-year-old masseuses they were aware of?
I'm not aware of any.
Were there any 16-year-old masseuses you were aware of?
I'm not aware.
Any 15?
Look, I just want to be clear. The only person that I'm aware of who claims to have been, and we have to, whilst I've established that I was 17, given that she has changed her age so many times, the only person that I'm aware of that was a masseuse at the time when I was present in the house.
Maxwell, of course, would go to trial and be convicted of sex trafficking and sentenced to 20 years in prison. So there you go. Some videos to keep in mind as we're still trying to process everything that is coming out of this Epstein Files release. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. You can also check us out on NBC's Peacock. We got Sidebar episodes up there as well. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. Hope you can check it out. I'll see you next time, everybody.
First case before the court, State of Ohio versus Michael McKee. It's 26 CR 253. There are 5 counts. 4 counts of aggravated murder, unclassified felonies, and 1 count of aggravated burglary, felony 1. Each of these counts come with a 3 and a 6-year firearm specification.
Thank you. Counsel, please make your appearance.
Thank you, Your Honor. Diane Menashe on behalf of Michael McKee.
Thank you.
Your Honor, with respect to the allegations, we would acknowledge receipt, waive reading, enter not guilty pleas to all counts contained therein.
Michael McKee, the man accused of killing a dentist and his wife, was back in court, this time in the state where he is charged with their murders. And it has been announced that he has hired a very high-profile, high-powered attorney, Diane Menashe, somebody we have spoken to before here on Law and Crime. What do we know about her? But more importantly, are there any clues from her past successful cases that can give us clues as to how she might defend this guy? Let's talk about it. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. They were a successful, beloved couple. A dentist and his wife found shot to death in their own home in the first light of the new year. And for weeks, the question became, who? Who could have done this? And that is when the spotlight turned to the ex-husband. The ex-husband of the wife, a Chicago surgeon named Michael McKee. There was a manhunt, there was an arrest, there was an extradition, and now he's here sitting in the Franklin County Jail. His first Ohio court appearance happened today. We're going to play a little bit of it as well, but really what we want to focus on this sidebar is something different, because this case took a turn into very familiar territory for us here at Law and Crime. Why? Because he hired a lawyer that we know very well. It is a name that you've heard before on this show. Diane Menashe, a 27-year veteran who has covered a lot of big cases. In fact, she's been with us here right on Sidebar. Let me bring in Diane Menashe. She is a trial attorney in Ohio. Diane, so good to see you. It's been a minute since we have a chance to talk. Unfortunately, these are the circumstances. Before we even get into all of the legal components of it, what is just your overall reaction when you heard about this? Because this is from your home state. See, we know her. I wasn't lying. Now, Menashe is a very high-profile defense attorney you call on when the stakes are life and death. She has fought in some of the biggest murder trials that we've seen recently. So as I mentioned, 27-year veteran. Okay, she filed an official notice of appearance in this case on January 22nd. She has defended about 36 people that have been facing the death penalty. Again, very high-profile cases in Franklin County. She's also somebody who is apparently opposed to the death penalty. To give you an idea of who we're talking about, by the way, she grew up in Seattle. She attended Purdue University. She got her law degree at Tulane University in New Orleans. She worked in the Ohio Public Defender's Death Penalty Unit. She's actually an instructor in Harvard Law School's Trial Advocacy Workshop. She's a fellow in the American College of Trial Lawyers, the International Academy of Trial Lawyers. She is very, very accomplished. And in fact, we have covered cases before where she was representing the defendant in very high-profile cases. I mean, do we remember the cases of former Mount Carmel Dr. William Husel? How about Matthew Moore? And now she is building the defense for Michael McKee. So the question is there anything from those past cases, her tactics, the way she fought those, that will give us an idea, a clue, as to how she might defend Michael McKee? So as we ask what fight are we about to see, because with Diane Menashe on board, it's not just about what happened that night. It is about how every single piece of evidence is presumably going to be challenged, how the police investigated this from the start. Because remember, the defense doesn't have to prove that Michael McKee didn't do this. Their job is to raise reasonable doubt. Their job is to say the prosecution cannot meet their burden. They can't dot all the I's, they can't cross all the T's. Now, before I break down what we've seen from Diane Menashe, Michael McKee, he did appear in court earlier today for his arraignment. And through his new attorney, Diane Menashe, he was read the formal charges and he pleaded not guilty. Here's what went down with this crucial first legal showdown.
First case before the court, State of Ohio versus Michael McKee. It's 26 CR 253. There are 5 counts. 4 counts of aggravated murder, unclassified felonies, and 1 count of aggravated burglary, felony 1. Each of these counts come with a 3 and a 6-year firearm specification.
Thank you. Counsel, please make your appearance.
Thank you, Your Honor. Diane Menashe on behalf of Michael McKee.
Thank you.
Your Honor, with respect to the allegations, we would acknowledge receipt, waive reading, enter not guilty pleas to all counts contained therein. We would also waive bond at this time, although we certainly reserve the right to raise that at a later date. The plea of not guilty form has been executed and signed on behalf of my client. Nothing further.
Thank you, counsel. I've signed the not guilty plea. I'm signing the bond form indicating that bond has been waived. Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Okay, so now let's get back to Diane Menashe, the driver of the defense's side. So what are we expecting in terms of strategy? I want to briefly reset the table to look at the details that Menashe is going to be attempting to chip away at in this case. So let's start there. Michael McKee. He's accused of entering the home of his ex-wife, Monique Tepe, and her husband, Spencer Tepe, in the early hours of December 30th, where prosecutors allege he shot and he killed both of them. The charges, 4 counts of aggravated murder. We're going to break it down. 2 for allegedly killing with prior calculation and design, talking about premeditation, and 2 for allegedly killing while committing an aggravated burglary. It's kind of like a felony murder rule. So 2 different theories to get him on the hook. There's also a major specification in this case that a silencer, a suppressor was used. Now, to be clear, if the allegations are true, this wasn't a random act of violence. Michael McKee and Monique Tepe had a past. They met and married in August of 2015. The marriage was short-lived. By March of 2016, just 7 months later, Monique had filed for divorce. But the court filings cite incompatibility. And at the time, McKee was finishing his medical residency in Virginia. The divorce was finalized. Monique moved on, eventually marrying Spencer Tepe, and they were approaching their 5-year anniversary. And by all accounts, again, the divorce didn't seem to be very hostile, didn't seem to be filled with animosity, which makes the allegations just even more confusing and chilling. But for years, they apparently led separate lives. McKee building his career as a surgeon in Chicago, the Tepes building their livelihood in Columbus, and on the surface, it was a clean break, years in the past. But prosecutors are now alleging that history formed the motive for a premeditated, calculated attack. This all brings us back to Diane Menashe. If we look at her past high-profile defenses, we can maybe see how she'll likely approach this case. So for example, 2023, Diane Menashe defended Rodney Vanata, who was accused of murdering his own wife, Heidi Duda, in their car. And the prosecution had a circumstantial case. They were together. He was the only one there. He made the 911 phone call. But you know what Menashe did? Menashe's defense was built on 2 powerful pillars. First, there was an alternative theory of the crime. So she pointed to another man, someone the victim had a relationship with who had a violent past. And second, she relentlessly accused police of tunnel vision, of locking onto Vanata from the start and failing to investigate anybody else. And you know what? The jury acquitted him in just hours. Now, maybe difficult in this case from what we've seen, right? There doesn't appear to be any alternative suspects. There doesn't appear to be anybody else that would have had a grudge or animosity towards the Tepes. And if you couple that with what we've seen so far from the prosecution, right? So there's been evidence that they have tracked McKee's car from being in that area all the way back to the other side in Illinois. The idea that they found a weapon that was potentially linked to the homicides. We don't know what other digital evidence they have, forensic evidence they may have. But that's what could be challenging about an alternative theory. Now, could she possibly argue tunnel vision? Maybe, but we'll see where it goes. This brings us to the case that I would say arguably made her a household name in legal circles. It was the defense of Dr. William Husel. Now here, the state had charged him with 14 counts of murder, alleging he intentionally overdosed ICU patients. And Menashe and the defense team, they focused entirely on causation and reasonable doubt. So they argued that the patients died of their catastrophic illnesses, not the medication. Their entire case was about redirecting the story away from intent and toward complex medical uncertainty.
I want to talk about turning now to patient James Allen. Again, State's Exhibit 30 of your report. Tell me if there's ever anything that you need to look at, by the way.
This is a patient we already covered as well?
You know what, it's sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but I'm not covering territory that I already have. So I just want to go here with respect to your mention of DNR-CC. You would agree with me that in terms of code status, DNR-CCA means do not resuscitate, comfort, care, arrest, correct?
Yeah, I don't use those terms CCA and CC. That's pretty specific to this hospital.
Okay. So then based on your review and work on behalf of the state of Ohio, did you come to know that within the hospital system, CCA meant comfort, care, arrest?
Yes, I did.
And did you also then learn, through your work with the state of Ohio, that CC means comfort care?
Yes.
Yet I just note in your report, and DNRCC is not something you use at Vanderbilt?
Correct.
Because I note in your report that you indicate that the goal of DNRCC is symptom management for best quality of life. Do you see how you write that?
Yes.
And fair to say, you write that almost in every patient's review, do you not?
Yes.
Something you kind of repeatedly state.
That's right.
And putting aside what codes you use at Vanderbilt or what codes you might know other hospitals use, Mount Carmel West, when you saw CC, it meant comfort care.
That's right.
Also, I want to talk to you about this sentence right here, where you said that Mr. Allen remains stable in the ICU, and his body accepted the treatment provided up until his death. Did you see that, number 7?
Yes, I do.
Okay. We have, as you I'm sure recall because you reviewed his medical records, Mr. Allen had 4 organs that were shutting down on him, correct?
That's right.
He was on vasoppressors, correct?
Right.
He's on a ventilator.
Yep.
And your conclusion with respect to 7 was that he was stable.
Well, I was referring, you want me to explain what I meant by that?
Well, I'll lead with yes or no. Yes or no with respect to number 7, you indicated, did you not, Mr. Allen remained stable in the ICU and his body accepted the treatment provided up until his death. That's what
yes.
Okay. And then I want to go down here where you indicate there is no clinical basis to remove Mr. Allen's breathing tube. Do you see that sentence?
Yes.
You would agree with me that separate from one another are indication and consent?
Yes.
Indication is on the physician side. Consent is on the durable power of attorney kin side.
Right.
Putting aside indication, if the family, next of kin, durable power of attorney, makes the decision to palliatively extubate an individual,
Yes.
that's what has to happen.
Yeah, I agree. And I disagree with the sentence that I wrote.
Now, there may be some difficulty here because I don't know if there's going to be a dispute as to what happened to the Teppes. I mean, it seems to be clear that they were killed in their house, right? This is not a dispute about cause of death. It does become a question about adding the pieces together, right? So with regards to McKee, perhaps Diane Menashe's defense will try to shift the focus. Could the forensic evidence have another explanation? You know, that's something to take into account. Yes, you know, investigators say we have the evidence of the car, maybe have evidence of this, we have evidence of that, but it is going to be questioning those experts to determine, was there another DNA sample? Are we 100% sure the ballistics match up? How do you know that was McKee's car? Maybe it was a car that a lot of people had. So these are going to be ways to strike at the actual digital, technological, forensic, ballistics evidence. Could there be other possibilities? And the idea here is to make the jury question the origin of the entire narrative, as she did successfully here.
Relative to count 11, we, the jury in this case being duly impaneled and sworn, find the defendant not guilty as to count 11 of the indictment for murder and not guilty of any lesser offense, signed by each and every juror. This is the 20th day of April, 2022. The 12 signatures are present, along with the 4-person designation.
Okay, so now let me tell you about another case. Matthew Moore. This was a big one. And I will tell you, it was a tragic story. We actually covered it on Prime Crime, my other show as well. But May of 2020, a woman named Emily Noble was reported missing from her home in Westerville. She was a forager, someone who loved nature, and then 4 months later, in September, her remains were found in a wooded area near her home. She was in a kneeling position, she had a USB cord tied around her neck, there was a water bottle nearby, and her husband, Matthew Moore, was the one who reported her missing. There was no confession, there was no eyewitnesses, there was no direct physical evidence like blood or DNA tying him to the scene. So you talk about Diane Menashe for a second, right? As of right now, are there eyewitnesses to what McKee is accused of doing? If he's been silent. Since he's been picked up, maybe no confession. What about the physical evidence? Again, we haven't heard a ton about forensic evidence yet. But the prosecution's case, going back to Moore, it hinged on a theory that he had killed her and then staged the scene to make it look like she did something to herself. That was the heart of the case the jury had to decide. Obviously, we're dealing with a different situation here. Maybe, unless Diane Menashe, I have no evidence to say this whatsoever, this is purely speculation, unless she would maybe say that the scene is not what it appears to be, that perhaps it was a case of homicide and self-harm. But again, that could be a stretch. There's no evidence to suggest that is where they're going. So, but going back to this case, here it became the alternative. Was it a homicide or a tragic alternative by a woman who had apparently suffered profound trauma, including the tragic loss of her stepson just months before? So two theories here. And this was a case, the Moore case, that was built on forensic interpretation. And Diane Menashe defended Matthew Moore, okay? Menashe's defense was built on creating a plausible alternative to the murder, focusing on experts who testified that the injuries could be consistent with Noble being responsible for her own death. And she highlighted Emily's history of trauma, her known habit of going into those very woods. She argued the police had tunnel vision, again, focusing only on the husband from the start. And you can hear her entire strategy in her opening statement.
We also expect Dr. Smock will explain to you that based on the scene, based on the injuries, based on his opinion, this was a staged suicide, something made to look like a suicide. Again, if you read the end of that book and saw the pictures and saw Miss Noble the way she was, you may think one thing. But when you get a chance to hear about the characters and see the timeline of events and see the injuries and hear all this testimony, the ending is not what it seemed maybe at first glance, but it's far more complicated and far more real than that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we expect that what you'll hear during the testimony as well is that Mr. Moore, from the beginning, was trying to control the situation. That he continued to stage this scene other than the physical scene that you saw or that you'll see occurred in those woods. And we expect that you'll hear during the testimony that Mr. Moore, the night of the 24th, going into the early morning of the 25th, that very important time frame in this case, that between 1 and 4 in the morning, he's sending messages to friends, stating he's taking a sleeping pill and that's probably going to sleep in. Again, I believe the evidence will demonstrate that from the beginning, Mr. Moore is controlling the scene and trying to stage what eventually will be located in those woods. That becomes of paramount importance when we believe you'll hear testimony today of Mr. Moore and comparing Mr. Moore's original statements to law enforcement about when he woke up, roughly 10 or 11 a.m., and that's inconsistent with some of the activity that occurred on his phone, demonstrating that he was awake far earlier than that, about 8:30 in the morning, and that he was awake even further in the earlier morning up until about 4 in the morning. So we expect that when you hear the testimony that there's a major discrepancy in the time frame. You'll hear part of that today when you hear the initial statements, as well as when looking at the cell phone forensics. Ladies and gentlemen, we expect you'll find out during the testimony that that's not all. That the defendant sent a text message to Emily just before noon on the 25th. Used the Find My iPhone app, which is an application designed to try to find where someone else's phone may be. And that he did that in around noon hour on the 25th, instead of leaving the room that he was laying in, instead of walking through the house to see if Miss Noble was there. And again, we expect you to hear testimony that it wasn't for at least 6 hours after that before Mr. Moore finally called someone and said, "My wife is missing." Ladies and gentlemen, you'll see body camera footage from Officer Hollis today. Again, Officer Hollis is the responding officer on the scene. He came, had the initial conversations with Matthew Moore. And we expect that you'll see during that body camera footage that there's a specific area noted in the back of the garage that after some period of time, almost 2 hours after the report, Mr. Moore points to and says, "This is weird. This cord doesn't belong here." And what we expect you'll see during the body camera footage is that there have been things moved during the pendency of when Officer Hollis originally first comes on scene to when the defendant points this area out. Following that conversation and during that conversation, you'll hear that Mr. Moore says, "This area is weird. I haven't touched it, but this seems out of place to me. Somebody must have done this." But what we expect you'll hear is that this is just another example of the defendant controlling the scene, staging the scene to make this look like something other than what it was. Now, ladies and gentlemen, after 2 weeks of testimony, you're going to hear evidence about cell phones, physical evidence. You're going to hear about the parties, everyone involved. And we ask you to be diligent in your review. Diligent in your review of the timeline, how things go together, and diligent when reviewing this case and discussing. And at the end of the 2 weeks, we're going to ask you to see this for exactly what this is. And we're going to ask you to make a finding of guilty of the charge of murder. Thank you.
As I introduced myself yesterday, Diane Menashe on behalf of Matt Moore, my co-counsel, Alexander Petrillo. The state, I just listened to them for about 30 minutes, and they told you their theory. Their theory is that Matt Moore killed his wife. Don't know when, but Matt Moore kills his wife, and then somehow gets her body into the wooded area where you walked yesterday and stages her death. And then I heard the state go on to say that their evidence will show how not just was he that sophisticated to figure out those two things, but he then also took great efforts to control the situation after May 24th and May 25th of 2020. Members of the jury, the evidence will show that the state's theory is based on speculation and inferences. It is not supported by the evidence. And simply, members of the jury, their theory doesn't make sense. Now, I know you were listening to the state's opening just as well as I was, and the judge has already told you that our opening statements are not evidence. They are just how we believe the evidence will unfold. But I say this, that in my 30-some minutes of listening to the state's argument, I noted that they didn't mention reasonable doubt. That is their burden. Their burden is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And we talked about that in voir dire. It's their burden and their burden alone. And the judge has already given you the instructions of law, and he will again, which say, if the state fails to meet their burden, then the only appropriate verdict as to each of the 3 counts in this case is not guilty. And here's why I mentioned reasonable doubt, and that they didn't mention it, is because as the judge has told you, and as I talked about in voir dire, reasonable doubt is a doubt based on reason and common sense. And so I want to talk about this morning during my opening statement as to why it doesn't make sense that Matthew Moore, and I'll call him Matt, that Matt killed his wife Emily and then staged her suicide. First, members of the jury, the evidence will show there's no physical evidence. You will hear evidence the state will put on, we anticipate, that law enforcement extensively searched the area of 46 Abbey Cross. Not just Westerville Police Departments, but the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigations was brought in. A unit whose sole job, members of the jury, is to look for forensics. They're there too. And it's not just the house. And when I say the house, members of the jury, the evidence will show that they searched the entire perimeter area. But the evidence will also show that exhaustively and extensively they searched the Ultima, They searched the Subaru. They searched the attic with Matt's permission, by the way. Did they do all these searches? They searched the bedding, the sheets that were in Joey's bedroom, where Matt Moore told the police the evidence will show he slept. Members of the jury, there's also no evidence of staging. I certainly listened to the state's opening that their theory is that Matt kills her, takes her to the wooded area, and then stages her death. And this is why, as you listen to this evidence, I ask you, members of the jury, to really use your common sense. Because the evidence will show that Emily is found in the position where you stood yesterday, under that branch. She's found with her water bottle next to her. Her hair is down. And we know that because the way her hair is matted when she's found. Her hair is down. Hair tie around her wrist. She's in her walking clothes. And hair tie around her wrist, I just say, is because we know that the last person that saw her leaving for a walk. She's in clothing that, as you look closely, right, is clothing that you would wear when you're walking. And you don't even need to look closely because the evidence will show she has her tennis shoes on. Not the shoes or the clothing that she's seen in the night before. And the evidence will show there is no question as to what Matt and Emily were wearing on the night of the 24th, on her birthday, because we have pictures, selfies, that they took of themselves at the bar as they're celebrating her birthday.
And guess what happened? Matthew Moore was acquitted by a Delaware County jury on August 26, 2022 for the murder of his wife, Emily Noble. You know, it was notable because the judge in that case, Greene County Judge Stephen A. Wolves, had said that while everybody was looking for justice for Emily Noble, he says, I think the jury also said that justice for Emily is not injustice for you. And they reaffirmed that. And so that was also a case built upon alternative theories. There was an argument that the investigation was a bit sloppy, that they didn't properly secure the scene. Those are the bread and butter of defense attorneys. You question every aspect of an investigation. And if there's any part that doesn't appear to be 100% reliable, that is room for reasonable doubt. Now, what will we see in the Michael McKee case if it eventually goes to trial? I don't know. But this is kind of a preview of Diane Menashe, what she's done in the past. She has a successful track record in high-profile cases. We shall see. And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on NBC's Peacock as well. Hopefully you can check us out there too. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, I got my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live. I hope you can check that out too. I'll catch you next time, everybody.
And we returned to answer questions repetitively, literally over and over again. I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein.
All right, so this is part two, Bill and Hillary Clinton's depositions to the House Oversight Committee. It's getting a lot of attention right now, with people analyzing their answers that the former president and former first lady gave in response to questions about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. How did they know him? Did they ever see or hear about any wrongdoing? When did they cut ties with the accused trafficker? We did this yesterday. Now we are going to do a deeper dive into all of the Clintons' explanations, and sometimes, I will tell you, it got a bit tense. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. So I said this last night that we were probably going to do a follow-up episode because last night we did breaking news. We just got the videotaped depositions of Bill and Hillary Clinton. We wanted to send something out to you as quickly as possible. This is part two, okay? We wanted to do a follow-up, and as promised, here you go. Bill Clinton. I mean, every day we learn about new information about Jeffrey Epstein, his inner circle, his wide-ranging influence, his alleged connections to powerful people all over the world, and for years, former President Bill Clinton, because a lot of the focus is more on him. We're actually going to focus more on his testimony in this episode. It has been brought up in connection with Epstein, and we know that Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and the allegations surrounding him running this sex trafficking operation, right, this rampant alleged abuse of teenage girls, that in and of itself can be explored. But the other part that's being explored right now, with so much of the release of the Epstein files, has been, did other people know about what he was accused of doing? Was it an open secret in some circles, right? That seems to be what the House Oversight Committee is trying to get to. And now the former president has been caught up in this. Why? The former president has acknowledged taking trips on Epstein's private jet in the years after he left office as part of his charity work with the Clinton Foundation. It's also, the Clinton Global Initiative. His name appears on flight logs along with Secret Service agents. Ghislaine Maxwell, right, convicted sex trafficker. She was connected to the Clintons, even attended their daughter Chelsea's wedding. She was a +1, but anyway. And here's the thing too. Epstein reportedly donated money that was connected to President Clinton's 1992 presidential campaign and for Hillary Clinton's Senate campaign in 2000. And according to ABC News, Epstein had visited the White House multiple times during Bill Clinton's presidency, signed in on the visitor logs, reportedly 17 occasions between 1993 and 1995. So you can understand why there was a request, more like a demand, for the Clintons to sit down, be interviewed, and answer questions. I mean, President Clinton has also appeared in a few photos with Jeffrey Epstein, and there was a very bizarre, apparently framed portrait of Clinton wearing a dress, pearls, high heels. This was apparently hanging in Epstein's Manhattan home. Very weird. And of course, we know there are the photos of him in a hot tub. We're going to talk about that. But to be clear, there is no evidence that we have seen or that has been reported by other outlets in the Epstein files suggesting the Clintons engaged in any criminality or had knowledge of any criminality, including what Epstein was accused of doing. And look, this is strange because these depositions, we're kind of analyzing them like a jury would, right? Credibility, body language, responses, but it's not like the Clintons are on trial. It's not like they're the subject of a criminal investigation or anything like that or facing criminal charges. They're not. But assessing their answers is part of the committee's work in better understanding Epstein's world, what he was up to, and for their purposes, seeing if there needs to be a change in the law. Does there need to be reforms to make sure that there is not an Epstein 2.0 in the future, but also whether or not they can refer any matters, any criminal matters, to the Department of Justice. So, the committee members had a lot of questions for the Clintons, and after months of trying to get them on the record, and even there was this threat to hold them in contempt, the former president, former Secretary of State agreed to 2 4-hour depositions in Chappaqua, New York. This is where they live, at the city's Performing Arts Center. All right, before we jump back into this, look, it's the new year, although no one's saying Happy New Year's anymore. That'd be really weird. But the point is, if you have debt right now, the threat to your financial health stays the same. Look, debt is a silent killer. Interest compounds, fees stack up, your financial problems multiply, but it doesn't need to stay that way. Our sponsor, PDS Debt, has helped hundreds of thousands escape debt, reduce what they owe, and take back control. So whether it's credit cards, personal loans, medical bills, PDS Debt has customized options to help you pay off debt faster, and there's no minimum credit score that's required. They look beyond the numbers at your unique financial situation and design personalized plans to help you pay off debt faster and put money back where it belongs, in your pocket. Plus, they're A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Every month you wait is going to cost you more, but your way out starts right now. Don't wait for debt to strike again. Break free in 30 seconds. Get your free personalized assessment and the best option for you at pdsdebt.com/sidebar. That's pdsdebt.com/sidebar. pdsdebt.com/sidebar. Now, I want to dig in here, and we only scratched kind of the surface yesterday. So let me first start just a little bit more with Hillary Clinton, and then we'll focus more on Bill Clinton. So Hillary's deposition was first last Thursday. The depositions, again, were filmed. The videos were released Monday evening. And again, we put out a sidebar last night as quickly as possible. We couldn't get to everything, so here's something new. This is where Hillary Clinton, stated unequivocally that she had no relationship with Epstein or Maxwell, and that she didn't even know most of the people the committee was asking her about.
Madam Secretary, in the interest of efficiency here today, I'm going to ask you one question followed by a list of names. The question can be answered yes or no. If you do indicate yes to any individual, I will come back and revisit that at the end. The question is, have you ever communicated with any of the following people relating to Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell? Richard Kahn,
No.
Darren N. Dyke,
No.
Sarah Kellen,
No.
Doug Band,
Not that I recall.
Lawrence Summers,
No.
Huma Abedin,
Have I ever talked to her about this in preparation for this hearing? I have.
outside of that,
Not that I recall.
Noam Chomsky,
No.
Leslie Groff,
No.
Nadia Marcinkova,
No.
John Luke Brunel,
No. I don't know most of these people. Should I tell you that I know who they are, or just tell you I never talked to them?
just so you never talked to him, it's fine. Alan Dershowitz,
No.
Kathy Rumler,
No.
Bill Richardson,
No.
George Mitchell,
No.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew.
No. As I say, many of these people I've never heard of. Most of these people I've never had a relationship with, although I know their name. Some of them are deceased. But I was not communicating about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, as I understand what you're asking me, contacting people about them. That did not happen.
And look, that's fair. She's not connected to Epstein the same way that her husband apparently was. I mean, she reportedly would consistently say to the committee, "You'll have to ask my husband." But I will tell you something that really only a video playback of a deposition could capture. Transcript wouldn't really do this justice. This was fireworks, okay? This moment. Because after about an hour of testimony, things derailed when it was discovered that Representative Lauren Boebert had apparently taken a photo of Hillary Clinton inside the deposition room and shared it. Went online. Big no-no. Because under the rules, there really can't be unauthorized photographs or videos in a closed-door deposition.
You're showing me an email from someone who I don't recall knowing about a fundraiser that wasn't for me, but was for Congresswoman Lowy. I have no information. Okay. I went to the fundraiser to support my friend Nia Lowy.
All right.
Excuse me, can I interrupt?
I have
There
another.
are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying from inside this room. Can you please advise me as to whether or not that's permissible and consistent with the rules, particularly given that we have asked for a public hearing? If there are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying, can you please explain how that
I'm done with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
We will go off the record.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
So I would like to understand how that's permissible.
Before the hearing was.
It doesn't
Excuse
matter.
me.
We all are abiding by the same rules.
I will take that down.
Yeah,
So
well.
I would like to take a break at this moment.
Yeah,
and I'd like to have
I'm
a
done
conversation.
for now.
And Clinton was at times visibly irritated that she even had to be there, as there had been very little evidence that she was in fact connected in any way with Epstein. And after it was over, Clinton spoke with reporters outside and referenced the fact that what was originally proposed as an open public hearing was changed to a deposition behind closed doors. Now, you'll hear the committee ultimately say that's how they do it. These are the rules. This is how it happens. You do a private deposition, then a public hearing. But anyway, here's Hillary Clinton.
They had a chance to do it in public, and I wish they had done it in public. And I think they're making the wrong decision, avoiding doing it in public. I thought it was very repetitive. I thought that they asked literally the same questions over and over again, which didn't seem to me to be very productive. And then, as I said, toward the end, you know, there were other questions that were totally off subject. So if they are going to fulfill their responsibilities to literally investigate the investigations, which is what they originally said was the scope of their work, I think they could have spent the day more productively.
Okay, now I want to talk about Bill Clinton. So the following day, Friday, it was the former president's turn to face questioning. Pretty historic to have a former president sitting down for a deposition like this. And by the way, this is all under oath. There are always potential legal consequences if someone's not telling the truth. I'm not saying the Clintons weren't telling the truth, but that's why it's so significant, okay? That's why it matters. That's why it's so important. Now, He did take a moment toward the beginning to kind of chastise the committee for dragging his wife into the frenzy surrounding the Epstein files, and the committee members grilled the former president about his connection to Jeffrey Epstein and why Clinton was in fact associated with him. Although it is important to point out, Clinton apparently flew with Epstein on his private jet in the early 2000s. So this is before Epstein was convicted in Florida for soliciting prostitution, including that of a minor.
I'd like to start our conversation with a few foundational questions so we can just set the record straight from the very beginning. With respect to your relationship with Mr. Epstein, did you ever, at any point during your interactions with Jeffrey Epstein, know about the sexual abuse that he was committing against minors and young women?
No.
Have you ever engaged in sexual activity with a person introduced to you by Jeffrey Epstein?
No.
With respect to your relationship with Ms. Ghislaine Maxwell, did you ever, at any point during your interactions with Ghislaine Maxwell, know about the sexual abuse that she committed and facilitated against minors and young women?
No.
Have you ever engaged in sexual activity with a person introduced to you by Ghislaine Maxwell?
No.
Have you ever, at any point, visited Jeffrey Epstein's former estate on Little St. James Island in the U.S. Virgin Islands?
No.
In February of last year, Attorney General Pam Bondi said on Fox News that you traveled on Mr. Epstein's plane, quote, because it supposedly had a bed in there where Jeffrey Epstein had young girls. I will ask you, did you fly on Mr. Epstein's plane because it had a bed where Jeffrey Epstein had young girls?
No.
Are there any other accusations that have been made against you with respect to Mr. Epstein that you'd like to address before we get started with some chronological questions?
Well, I think you pretty well covered it.
And I want to talk about a moment that has gone very viral. So Clinton, who's going to turn 80 this year, was given a few photographs from the Epstein files to look at. And he seems kind of to have taken a look at them with a grin. Now, some online have said it looks like he's reminiscing. I can't say that for sure. But just take a look at this and also look at his lawyer, too.
Mr. President, do you recognize yourself in this photo?
I do.
And it appears that the man on the right of the photo is Jeffrey Epstein. Is that correct?
I think so.
Have you seen this photograph before today?
Only in this picture.
And for the record, what is happening in this photo?
He's smiling at me. Looks like he's talking to me.
This is one of the friendly interactions that you were describing earlier?
Yes.
And can you describe the circumstances surrounding this photo?
Are you asking if he recalls this?
I do not. I have no idea. I see Richard Branson in the back and other people.
That's fine.
But I don't remember anything about it.
And you appear to be comfortable with Mr. Epstein in this photo. Would you disagree with that characterization?
You're creating a characterization. He's already responded to your question about the picture.
I'm comfortable with a lot of people. I'm comfortable here. I'm not happy, but I'm comfortable. And my conscience is clear. That helps. Let me see it. Okay.
Mr. President, we have about 5 minutes remaining in the majority's first hour.
And then President Clinton had this face-off with Representative Nancy Mace, who has been very vocal and very frustrated with the Epstein files. Just take a look at this.
Mr. President, Congresswoman Nancy Mace from South Carolina, thank you for being here with us for hours today. I know it's been a long day, and I know that we're going to wrap up soon for you. Did you know one of the witnesses who testified in the Epstein cases that Epstein said, you quote, like them young? Why would Epstein say that about you?
Are you asking his opinion? You're asking him to think about why Mr. Epstein would say
Correct.
something about him.
Why would Epstein say that
So
about
she's
the
asking you
president?
to try to be in Mr. Epstein's mind and guess at what Mr. Epstein would have thought about.
Clinton likes them young, referring to girls.
First of all, that's not true.
What's not true?
That I have any interest in underage.
I didn't say underage. I said young.
But it's still not true.
Is an intern young?
Yes.
Okay.
At my age, anybody younger than I am.
Did you
is
know
young.
Jeffrey Epstein instructed a witness to deny you were ever on his island?
He didn't have to since I was never there.
And the former president had this to say when asked about whether current President Donald Trump should sit down for his own deposition, because as you know, Trump himself is mentioned numerous times in the Epstein files, and there are even uncorroborated allegations of him participating in sexual abuse.
We believe in the minority that President Trump should also answer this committee's questions. He's someone that is mentioned almost more than any other person beside Ghislaine Maxwell in the Epstein documents. And so to get more information for this investigation, was wondering if you also agree that President Trump should answer questions of this committee.
That's for you to decide, but he did know him well, and I once had a brief discussion with him about it.
Thank you. Thanks for the answer. With that, I'm going to go to Mr. Walkinshaw, and we'll go down a series of questions.
I hate this, but because I don't believe I should inject anything. But I do not want to leave the impression, but since there was no follow-up question, the president never, this is 20-something years ago, never said anything to me to make me think he was involved in anything improper with regard to Epstein either. He just didn't. He just said we were friends, and then we had a falling out over a land deal, property deal. That's all.
By the way, speaking of President Trump, Clinton talked about what he knew of Epstein and Trump's apparent friendship and what Trump himself told him about his, quote, great times with Epstein.
So then Donald Trump gave him the golf course in New York to have a tournament on, and I played in it a couple of times. And the day I was there, he would typically, Donald Trump would come out and play a few holes with us. And he somehow knew I had flown in Jeffrey Epstein's aircraft, and he said, you know, we had some great times together over the years, but we fell out, all because of a real estate deal. And he said, I'm sorry it happened. That's all.
Do you recall whether President Trump was the first one to affirmatively bring up the subject of Jeffrey Epstein?
No, but I'd be shocked if I did. I just don't do that.
Do you recall whether President Trump elaborated at all on the great times that he had with Jeffrey Epstein?
No, and at the time, I didn't put any, sexual spin on it.
And as far as you recall, President Trump characterized the nature of the ending of their friendship as being solely due to the real estate bidding.
That's what he said.
Now, Clinton also had to address the now infamous photo of him in a pool or hot tub with the other person in the photo redacted out. Looks very questionable. Well, Clinton explains that he believes this photo was taken in Brunei at the end of a long trip around Asia for the Clinton Foundation.
What we're trying to get at is some context for the public on whether you remember this photo and any details you may be able to provide us about it. So do you recall the details of this photo or recall the photo being taken?
No, I don't think I ever knew the photo was taken.
Okay, and for those who can't see it, it's a photo of you in a hot tub. There's a person next to you here. Do you remember where it was taken? Where was it taken?
I'm almost sure that this taken, I think there's an adjacent photograph, which you probably have, that if people saw it, they would feel that someone was trying to con them showing this picture. But anyway, This picture was taken in Brunei. And we flew one night on a trip to Asia, the last very long leg.
You said we, is it, who is that including?
Well, my TEL team that was working
Thank you.
on the AIDS issue, and Mr. Epstein was there, and Miss Maxwell. But anyway, we got to the end of the flight was Brunei. It's a tiny place, but a very wealthy one. And the Sultan of Brunei was a man that I had gotten to know well in my 8 years as president. And he said he wanted to help me with my AIDS initiative, and he invited me to stay there. And he said, I want you to stay at this hotel, and I hope you'll use the pool. So I did, and then I got out and went to bed exhausted.
Just for the record, there's another picture that also shows this as part of the larger pool area. Do you all have that so that he can refresh his recollection with respect to that?
You should have it. It's quite enlightening. If you watch this,
Yes, it's noted.
it'll
Yes.
give you a different feel.
Thank you.
Okay.
We don't have it with us right now.
Okay,
We do.
thanks. I just wanted to
as
make
well.
sure he knew the
And
context.
so were there other people in that pool or hot tub with you as well?
I don't think there's anybody in the hot tub. I didn't forgotten that there was anybody in the hot tub, but it was big, but it was about.
Well,
He's asking in the pool
it appears
area.
this photo, there's a girl over here, or there's someone.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
But he's also asking in the pool area were there other
Yes,
individuals?
I don't know who that is.
Okay, so you don't know.
No, and then there were other people in the pool.
Okay, so do you remember were they under 18? Would you
No.
know? No.
Were they part of your traveling party, he's asking you?
Yes, they were, I think. I think everybody there was part of our party. It was late at night or late-ish. And I also believe that there was a Secret Service agent there at the other end of the pool.
Okay, and was this in public?
No, it was a hotel room, and the Sultan wanted us to stay there, and the water, this big pool, was on the same floor that there were several suites, so we went out, I swam around, I sat in the hot tub for 5 minutes, or whatever it was, and I got up and went to bed.
And then I have to ask this, did you engage in any sexual activity
No.
with this person? Okay, thank you.
And of course, attention was also called to a photo of a young-looking female giving President Clinton a neck rub or back rub as he sits in a chair.
At any point, did you or other male passengers receive a massage from this young woman or any other young women who are described as a masseuse?
Well, I've seen one picture that shows that in a airport waiting area, one of the women was massaging my neck. That's all I've seen.
Have you received more than one massage from these trips with Mr. Epstein and the young girls that were present?
I don't recall them, but the problem I remember from that trip was that my neck had spasmed and I was in, and so they offered to help and I let them help.
This was interesting because Clinton at one point described Epstein as being like a vacuum cleaner, always looking to suck up as much information as possible from those around him.
How would you describe the substance of your conversations with Jeffrey Epstein during the many hours that you spent together on the aircraft?
Well, at first, he really seemed to be like a vacuum cleaner, like he really wanted information. And there was no, to go back to the business with the passport, the false link, there was nothing overtly manipulative about it. He wanted to know, what did I think of derivatives trading? Did I think that the stock market was properly regulated or did it need more? how did we have the most broadly shared prosperity in 50 years? Was it just an accident? Was it just technology? Or do we have specific policies? He wanted to know stuff like that. And it was great for the first, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 conversations. But I could tell that it was like, you guys are in politics. Don't you ever feel like sometimes somebody's talking to you and then they're just checking the box and they got to go do something else and be somebody else? That's the way I felt.
That's important because, again, we're trying to understand what was Epstein after, right? And after a long 4.5 hours, the deposition was concluded.
As we start to close, is there anything you would like to add or clarify about what you've said here today?
You're good.
Well, you're good.
I think we're fine. I'm struggling because it's hard to know exactly what I knew when I knew it, given what I've learned since. It's become a kind of a compelling challenge, but I've tried to tell you what I knew then, and when you ask what I think now, I think you have, all of you, Mr. Chairman, you've had a chronologically challenging thing. You've got all the stuff that happened with Jeffrey Epstein, some of it as regards to President Trump going back to the late 90s. And that's a long time ago. And then what we learned later, it's been difficult. But I have enjoyed it. You've been very respectful to me and given me a chance to talk to you.
Well, we thank you for your time.
And I wish you well. I still will say, if you can think of some things to do that will reduce the incidence of trafficking in America, and it should be possible for us to virtually eliminate underage abuse. It should be. We just got to figure out what kind of technology we need and what kind of policies. So thank you.
So look, at the end of the day, where do we go from here? Again, it's not like Bill and Hillary spoke in front of a jury in an active trial. I haven't heard any blatant outright calls saying they misrepresented what happened or weren't telling the truth or allegations of perjury. It seems the committee took their responses for now. They're moving forward to get a better understanding of the Epstein situation, maybe more of an explanation of what Epstein was a part of, why he wanted to have a connection with the Clintons, other well-known people. And to be fair also, I think it would be rather difficult to impeach the credibility of the Clintons. You're talking about episodes from a very long time ago. And again, to be clear, there is no evidence of any active criminal investigation into the Clintons. But this Epstein probe is as much about the American people getting a front row view of all of the materials and all of the depositions and all the testimony so they can make a judgment as to what happened here. And this is just as much as about Congress and potentially prosecutors or law enforcement moving forward in any way if that happens. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. You can also follow us on NBC's Peacock. We got Sidebar episodes up there as well. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you next time, everybody.
दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा दे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा दे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी खाक समाए ओढ़ एक जा बिच खाक समाए हाय हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी ऊंचे लम्हे महल बना दे ऊंचे लम्हे महल बना दे दगा फरेब ते जुल्म कमा दे दगा फरेब ते जुल्म कमा दे हाय कुछ नहीं खड़ते नाल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कुछ नहीं खड़ते नाल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया देंदी दुख बतेरे दुनिया देंदी दुख बतेरे वीरा कोलू वीर नखेड़े वीरा कोलू वीर नखेड़े आए मावा तू बिछड़े लाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए मावा तू बिछड़े लाल दुनिया दो दिन दी वो दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी सुख दे सजना सारे संगी सुख दे सजना सारे संगी नस जांदे जद आवे तंगी नस जांदे जद आवे तंगी हाय कोई नहीं गम दा प्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओह कोई नहीं गम दा प्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हंसना रोना गम लाचारी हंसना रोना गम लाचारी आज मेरी कल तेरी बारी आज मेरी कल तेरी बारी हाय कंजरी दीनी मिसाल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओह कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी गुत वे तुड़ा नी मिट्टी दा वीरा गुत तुड़ा नी मिट्टी दा वीरा अपना आप संभाल बशीरा अपना आप संभाल बशीरा हाय मिट्टी मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय मिट्टी मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी सुल्तान भी आए बड़े बड़े सुल्तान भी आए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए आए हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन